From being one of the most promising young talents in Formula One to finishing dead last in his first race of the 2023 season, somewhere along the line, Lando Norris fell. Sorry, I misspoke. McLaren fell. And because of that, he wants to move to Ferrari or Red Bull. Karun Chandok, an F1 journalist, has stated that Lando Norris will possibly be looking to move to Ferrari or McLaren. Cause the truth is, McLaren has had a horrible start to the season. This is interesting, because people are also linking Lewis Hamilton to Ferrari, since he claimed that Mercedes doesn't listen to him. So these two teams will have no worries trying to attract drivers. Cause while Red Bull has a good thing going with Max and Sergio, if they feel, they can always just hire Daniel Ricciardo too. And if Ferrari is linked to Hamilton, that means no other drivers getting a chance at the prancing horse, since Leclerc's clearly staying. But that wouldn't stop Lando from trying to join either of these teams. Since there was a pneumatic pressure leak in his car, Lando finished the race P17, which was dead last since 3 drivers had retired. But that's not even the whole thing though. He had to pit a whopping 6 times during the race to try to fix issues. And what happened to his teammate, the promising Oscar Piastri? Well, he had to retire from the race. His F1 debut lasted literally just 14 laps before he had to end his race because of electrical issues. While this seems a little too far-fetched, cause McLaren did restructure their team around Lando, Karun is convinced that this will probably happen. He stated that Lando will most likely be thinking about a move to Red Bull or Ferrari when talking on the Sky Sports F1 podcast. Here, take a look at what else he said. Looking at where they're at, and we were talking before the season of McLaren locking him in, and Zach doing an amazing job of contracting him in for 4 years. He also mentioned how McLaren should have created some sort of exit clauses for Lando if they didn't, cause he's gonna want to leave now. The thing is, he's going to need to look elsewhere for sure. In 2022, McLaren couldn't make it to P4 in the constructors' standings, and this time around, they might just end up P7 or P8 even, cause Aston's strong as heck. Alpine is, well, at least it's better than them. Alfa Romeo has made some great strides too. In fact, even Williams might end up faring better. But hey, that's kind of a stretch, cause other than the traditional top 3 teams, Lando and Alonso are the best drivers on the grid. And Lando's talents are really being wasted over at the Woking-based team. So there's a bit of frustration on his end. And what you gotta remember is, this isn't a one-off thing. Bahrain wasn't a one-off. McLaren's woes started in preseason testing. It was a nightmare, and the gearbox had to be shipped to England to get fixed, and the drivers couldn't get a lot of laps in either. Honestly, at this point, I'm sure even Oscar Piastri is regretting the decision to join the team. So now here's the thing. I mentioned that he could end up moving to Ferrari or Red Bull, but there's one team that's starting to seem more and more likely for the guy: Mercedes. So Norris could end up leaving McLaren as early as next season, cause Lewis's contract is up. On the other hand, Lewis has announced in a podcast that Mercedes didn't listen to him when he told them what was wrong with the car, and neither did they listen to him when he told them what design direction to go in. So considering all these different aspects, a lot of people are linking him to a move to Ferrari, cause Ferrari's got the car almost perfect. If they actually work a bit on reliability and improving the overall car, they could end up challenging Red Bull. So a retirement or a move to Ferrari could be on the cards for the 7-time world champion. And if that happens, that leaves a seat open at the Silver Arrows squad, cause George Russell isn't going anywhere, but Hamilton might. And Lando and George would end up making one heck of a pairing. Until then, maybe he can stay at McLaren, cause Ferrari and Red Bull might be a bit too unrealistic. But it's not just Lando who might want Mercedes. Chances are he'll be Mercedes' top choice too. So let's say Lewis does retire, or he does move to Ferrari. Mercedes won't be able to hire Max Verstappen because, well, he's contracted until 2028. Plus, why the heck would he ever come to those guys considering the rivalry? Daniel Ricciardo would have been a good choice, yes, but he's going to spend a year away from the grid, so he might not be the experience the team might end up looking for, you know? That's why he's most likely the #1 pick for the team. There's no way Mercedes is gonna go for anyone else. Cause you gotta remember something remarkable about the guy. He's only 23 years old, yet he's on his 6th season with McLaren. If he had the right team and the right car, he could have been a prodigy like Max. And it's not like he hasn't been on the podium. In fact, he's been on the podium 6 freaking times. The problem here is, however, he hasn't ever won an F1 race. But then again, can he? His car is basically a tractor now, isn't it? And if you ever doubt his talents, just take a look at the 2021 race in Monza. He was just a second behind the race winner, his teammate Daniel Ricciardo. And then at the Russian Grand Prix, he was clearly leading the race and was all set to win until it rained, and it destroyed his hopes of a maiden Formula One win. Then, in 2022, he outshined his more experienced teammates throughout the entire season. But the question that many folks are asking right now is, will McLaren really have a horrible 2023? Because at the pace the team is going, it seems like they'll be dead last, to be honest. I mean, how do you accumulate any points when you're always failing to take it across the finish line? But here's the thing. The team will be bringing upgrades to its car at the Azerbaijan Grand Prix. But there are 2 more races to go before that happens, which means that Alpine and Aston will have already created a massive gap over McLaren. Plus, that doesn't exactly mean that the team will still do really good, because almost everyone that's struggling will be bringing more upgrades to their cars. But in the meantime, everything that's happening is incredibly unfair to Lando, because the guy who's had a pole and who's been fighting for podiums shouldn't be fighting at the back of the grid amongst teams like Haas and Williams. Because guys, look, McLaren is in trouble, and Norris has already been diplomatic about it. He didn't lash out at McLaren, and he remained calm. But if you want to be a top team, you should have started the season with the kind of parts you're expecting in Azerbaijan. Why waste 3 races over this? But until then, Norris has to do the best with what he has, and this effort won't be forgotten. Cause when he eventually goes into the driver market, teams are going to remember all that he achieved with an absolutely horrible car. And folks, that's all for why Lando wants to move to Ferrari, Red Bull, or Mercedes.